Beijing, November 8, 10:47 p.m. For 3 years, the door to Menglong's private apartment at number 19 Juxiankyo Road stayed sealed. A lock that had never been changed. Curtains that never moved. Neighbors said the air around that hallway was colder than the rest of the building, as though the corridor itself remembered what had happened. Tonight, that door was unlocked, not by police, not by family, but by a private team of forensic archivists claiming they were acting under artistic restoration rights. What they found inside rewrote everything we thought we knew about Menglong's final night. When the metal clicked, it wasn't just the door that gave way, it was time. The air that burst out was dry, mixed with faint perfume and burnt wax. The investigators wore masks not for dust, but for fear. Inside, the apartment looked untouched, frozen in the same eerie neatness seen in photos from his old interviews. But there was one difference: the wall opposite the window was covered in red strings and photographs, all connected by thin silver pins. Every photo was of the same man, Menglong, yet in each image, his face looked slightly different. It was like he was documenting versions of himself, said forensic technician Li Shen, his hands trembling. Some photos weren't even taken in this city. Or this time. A large painting leaned against the far wall, abstract, black and crimson, shaped like storm clouds swallowing a face. When one of the team members tried to lift it, they heard a hollow echo. The painting wasn't on the wall. It was the wall. Behind it lay a hidden sliding door leading to a narrow chamber barely big enough for one person. Inside that space stood a microphone, wired but unplugged, dozens of burned-down candles arranged in a perfect circle, and at the center, a camera on a tripod, pointed at an empty chair. When they powered the camera, its internal cards still worked. The first video file was titled simply, "I Was Never Alone." The footage, verified by digital analysts tonight, shows Menglong sitting in that very chair. He looked exhausted, pale, his eyes rimmed in red, yet he smiled faintly, the kind of smile that belongs to a man who's already made peace with something unbearable. "If you're watching this," he said quietly, then the lights found their way back on. "Don't move anything here. Just listen." The video ran for 9 minutes and 14 seconds. No jump cuts. No effects. But halfway through, the frame began to flicker, and another figure appeared faintly behind him, visible only when lightning flashed through the window. A second face, expressionless, standing inches from his shadow. Digital forensic experts confirm the flickering pattern matches none of the known glitch types. The distortion, they say, responds to his words. "There are versions of me you've never met," you whispered. "They act when I sleep. They film when I forget." Then, silence. The file ended with him turning toward the camera, almost smiling again, but his lips never moved in sync with the smile. Next to the chair was a leather notebook, embossed with his initials. Each page was dated, numbered, and written in 2 different handwritings. One neat, almost printed. The other rushed, broken, as if written in fear. One page stood out, dated 2 days before his final sighting. "Someone keeps moving my scripts when I'm gone. Last night, I dreamed of a stage with no audience, just mirrors. When I woke up, my lines were already memorized." In another entry, written in the second handwriting, "You're not the only one writing." The page ended mid-sentence, as if the pen was pulled away. Forensic linguists at the Beijing Cultural Bureau say the 2 handwriting samples match the same person, but written under different emotional states. As investigators turned to the wall again, they noticed something else. Beneath the red strings, faint outlines of words written in charcoal. One phrase repeated over and over, "They told me to finish the scene." Among the photos, a printed film schedule hung at the center. It listed a fictional shoot dated the same night he disappeared. Location: private studio, red door. Director: unknown. One of the pinned images was a mirror selfie, only his reflection was smiling wider than his real face. Experts confirmed the image was unaltered. "His reflection is 1 frame ahead," said a photography analyst, comparing timestamps. "It means the reflection moved before the camera captured him." At 11:23 p.m., one of the archivists noticed a faint clicking beneath the wooden floorboards, like Morse code. They lifted a panel and found an old cassette player, still connected to a timer switch. It was programmed to play at 3:33 a.m. every night. The tape's label read, "For when I forget myself." When played, it contained only breathing at first, soft, measured, human. Then, use voice again. If I don't wake up, tell them to stop filming. A second voice replied, lower, distorted, and chillingly calm. We never stopped. The tape ended with a faint laugh that matched no known recording of him. At precisely 11:45 p.m., as the team prepared to leave, the power in the building flickered. Every camera in the hallway shut down, except for the one inside the apartment. Its red indicator light blinked 3 times, paused, and blinked again. Investigators say the pattern matches the same flicker seen in Yu's last performance interview before his disappearance. Moments later, one of the team members, Zhou Wen, reported hearing a voice near the corridor mirror, a whisper repeating a line from his drama Dreambreaker, "Not every exit leads outside." Security footage shows her dropping her flashlight, but the reflection in the glass keeps standing upright for 2 extra seconds after she moves away. There was one final discovery, a locked drawer beneath his desk. Inside were 17 miniature tapes, each labeled with a date and a single name. Most were names of his co-stars, a few were crew members. The last tape was labeled ML, the initials of Menglong himself. That cassette, when tested, was blank. Completely silent. But analysts found faint electrical imprints showing it had once held audio, later erased, over and over again. We tried spectral recovery, said technician Li Shen, and heard what sounded like footsteps, then static, then him humming. The melody was from his unreleased song. The same one that, according to previous reports, predicted his fate. Pinned to the inside of the drawer was a folded page, creased like it had been opened 100 times. It was written in black ink, but the words had bled, as though water had dripped across them. The legible part read, "I never lived here. This room belongs to the version of me that never left the stage." Beneath that, a signature, not his. Instead of Yu Menglong, it read, Menging, translating to Dream's Shadow. By dawn, authorities sealed off the apartment once again, citing psychological contamination risk. The archivists were detained for questioning. 2 of them reportedly refused to speak after the visit. One said she saw someone standing in the hallway mirror who wasn't reflected by anyone else's camera. When police reviewed the footage, they confirmed something disturbing. Every reflection inside that apartment, mirrors, windows, even the stainless steel surfaces, captured a slightly different version of Yu Menglong. None of those reflections matched his real body position. Psychologists believe Yu Menglong may have created the shadow persona as part of an uncompleted performance piece, a psychological projection of the roles he played too deeply. But digital forensics tell another story. The timestamps on the video, the light flickers, and the background noises do not align with the city's electrical records for that night. In other words, the video was filmed in a space outside normal time sequence. When asked for comment, Professor Wen Jia, a sound engineer who analyzed the recordings, said, "The voice we hear at the end of the tape, it doesn't just sound like Yu Menglong. It has his frequency, tone, and speech rhythm. But inverted. Like a reversed version of his own echo." At 6:12 a.m., hours after the apartment was resealed, the hallway CCTV captured one final image before shutting down for maintenance. The door to Yu Menglong's flat, previously locked, newly sealed, was slightly ajar. From the gap, a faint red glow flickered, and the outline of a man could be seen standing just beyond it, motionless. Security guards swore no one entered or exited. The timestamp read 3:33 a.m., the same time the cassette was set to play. When asked if they reviewed the footage, the officer in charge gave only one reply: there was nothing to review. The frame was empty. But the reflection wasn't. Now, as the world reacts to this shocking revelation, one haunting question remains: who, or what, lived in that apartment after Yu Menglong vanished? Neighbors report that since the unlocking, lights inside the flat have begun to flicker every night at exactly 3:33 a.m., visible through the drawn curtains. The reflection of a man, faint and familiar, still walks past the window, even though the room remains sealed by police tape. And on the wall of a nearby building, someone has spray-painted 3 words in bright red. The scene continues. The street outside number 19 Juxiankyo Road still smelled of rain. Police tape fluttered like yellow ribbons in the wind, whispering against the metal gate. Reporters had been cleared hours ago, but the air stayed restless, as though the city itself wanted to see what was hidden inside. When the investigators returned at dawn to catalog the apartment, the door that had been sealed the night before stood half open again. The wax seal hung loose, melted at the edges, not broken, but softened, as if warmed from the inside. No fingerprints. No footprints. Yet the faint scent of burnt wax and sandalwood was stronger now, swirling through the corridor. One of the archivists whispered that it smelled like theater makeup, that strange mix of powder, sweat, and electricity before a scene begins. Inside, the light from their flashlights trembled across the walls. Every photograph on the red string wall was turned upside down, faces now staring at the floor. The strings had rearranged themselves into a new pattern, not random, not chaotic. Together they formed a single word scrawled across the plaster: return. Li Shen froze, his hands shaking. Did we leave it like this? He asked. No one answered. The team leader, Zhou Wen, began filming, her camera shaking slightly. Each frame caught tiny white motes drifting through the air, like dust caught in a projector beam. But the particles pulsed, dimming and flaring, rhythmically. When slowed down, their flicker matched the same pattern from Menglong's old stage performances, the coded light cue he used before his solo entrances. They moved deeper into the apartment. On the kitchen counter sat a porcelain cup half filled with water. Condensation trickled down its side, fresh, cold. Yet power to the apartment had been cut off for years. Impossible, whispered Zhou. Nothing should stay like this. Her flashlight swept past the sink and caught a reflection in the stainless steel, a man sitting in the chair in the other room. But when she turned, the chair was empty. The reflection, however, stayed for one heartbeat longer before fading into static. From the far end of the hall came a soft hum, the tune of Yu's unreleased song, the one never performed live. The investigators followed it to the small hidden chamber behind the painting. The candles, burned out the night before, now stood tall again, their wicks glowing faintly though unlit. At the center, the camera's red light blinked twice. Then, without being touched, it switched itself on. The screen displayed a live feed, the empty chair in front of them. But in the camera's monitor, the chair was not empty. Menglong sat there, motionless, hands clasped, eyes closed. Zhou gasped and stepped backward, bumping into Li Shen, who muttered a prayer under his breath. They tried to refocus the lens, but every time the frame sharpened, the image distorted, showing him breathing. Slow. Heavy. Real. For 22 seconds, he remained on screen. Then the feed cut to black, and the smell of ozone filled the air. When the team replayed the footage seconds later, the camera displayed an error message, no signal found. But the timer in the corner had changed, showing a date, November 8, 2025, the current night. Someone, or something, was recording from inside, now. Li Shen checked his watch. It read 3:33 a.m. The same cursed timestamp from the cassette logs. He dropped it, startled, when it began to tick backward. From the living room came a sound like paper tearing slowly. The notebook, Yu's journal, had flipped open on its own, pages fluttering violently before stopping on a blank sheet. Ink began to bleed through the paper, forming words as if written by an invisible hand. Scene 2 begins where the truth forgets itself. The ink bled deeper, tracing what looked like coordinates. When entered into the team's tablet, the coordinates pointed to a nearby abandoned studio lot, the same one once rented by Menglong for his private rehearsals, marked in old records as Red Door Stage. The message below the coordinates read simply, "He's still waiting for the audience." The apartment lights flickered once more. The temperature dropped. Breath misted in the air. And from the hallway mirror came faint tapping, like fingers against glass, slow and deliberate. 1. 2. Pause. 3. Li counted it aloud. 1, 2, 3, 3:33. Zhou raised her camera again, filming the mirror. Through the lens, faint writing appeared across its fogged surface, a line from Yu's last drama. "If I disappear, look where the light refused to fade." Then the reflection changed, showing all 4 team members standing still, except one extra figure between them. The frame blurred, the image shook, and the mirror cracked down the center, splitting the word fade clean in half. The sound that followed wasn't a shatter, it was a whisper, almost kind. Cut. The following morning, city officials arrived to reseal the building, but the investigators were missing. Their van remained outside, engine cold, headlights still on. Inside the van, police found Zhou's camera. The footage on the SD card ran exactly 33 minutes and 3 seconds. The last visible frame showed the apartment door slowly closing from the inside. A faint reflection in the glass caught Menglong's silhouette turning toward the camera, smiling that same out-of-sync smile. The timestamp looped over itself again and again until the frame went dark. Neighbors later reported that, for the first time in years, they heard a piano playing from behind the curtains of Yu's flat. The melody was familiar, the unreleased song. The lights inside flickered in rhythm to the tune, forming patterns like Morse code across the window panes. When decoded by enthusiasts online, the message spelled 3 words. Stay for curtain. No one dares enter the building now. Yet every night, precisely at 3:33 a.m., the blinds lift for a moment. In that brief glow, a shadow moves across the window, head bowed, hand raised, as if greeting an unseen crowd. Those who have watched say the figure isn't walking but floating, its motion smooth, theatrical, rehearsed. And in the silence that follows, a faint whisper echoes through the empty street.